Find someone that loves you. Book 1. I'm not enough, but I still stay.
So, Tails.
Tom says conversationally over dinner. The little fox looks up, startled to be called upon.
Yeah.
He asks cautiously. It's been 3 weeks since their family of 4 became one of 6, and it's their first time eating in their newly repaired house, after a less than stellar spell of hotel stays that were infuriatingly paid for out of their own pockets. Both Tails and Knuckles had been hesitant about being accepted into the Wachowski fold, and it's taken a lot to draw them out of their shells. Having a house to call home is a big step in that direction. Both Tom and Maddie have been eager to treat Knuckles and Tails to a home-cooked meal rather than lukewarm takeout, and so the prepared spread is a little more than overkill. Still, it's rapidly disappearing as Sonic and Knuckles practically fall on the food like they've never eaten before in their lives. Tails is a little slower on his approach, and so it's him who Tom aims what he hopes is a fairly innocuous question at.
Do all foxes have two tails on your planet?
No.
Tails says shortly, jabbing at his beef harsh enough that Tom can hear the scrape of his fork against the porcelain of the plate. Maddie is shooting him wide-eyed looks over the table that scream abort, but Tom is intrigued now. This is the first time that even the slightest hint of an edge has crept into Tails' voice since meeting him. The fox is young and nervous, and he says everything almost like it's a question and he's unsure anyone is going to answer him. He and Maddie have constantly been telling him to relax, but he's more tightly wound than even the tightest of springs. It seems, though, that Tom has accidentally stumbled across an exception to this temperament, and definitely not a good one.
Just you.
Knuckles has not noticed Maddie's frantic looks, probably because he's not looking at her.
I did not know that.
Just me?
Tails says. He stopped picking at his meat and sets his fork down with careful deliberateness.
That's so cool, bud.
Tom says cheerily, before Knuckles can say anything else. Maddie is right, they do need to abort for now.
It makes you special.
Tails scoffs.
No, it doesn't. It makes me
He trails off.
Whatever. Point is, it's nothing to be excited about.
There's a whole field of landmines that Tom and Maddie have yet to tread upon, each one armed with a potential explosive reaction from one of their boys about their past. And now Tom has gone and broken that streak. He can feel the pressure building up as Tails slowly fluffs up with whatever extreme emotion he's starting to feel. Is there time to do foos?
How about you, Knuckles?
Maddie, bless her, cuts in seamlessly.
What was your tribe like?
They were esteemed warriors, all as strong as the next.
Knuckles says, perking up slightly at the chance to talk about his people.
I miss them every day, but I know they watch over me always. It is an honor to represent them here on Earth.
Tails' ears droop and he drops his eyes to the floor. He mutters something under his breath, and Tom can't be sure but it had sounded like.
But nobody at home's happy in representing them.
Tom sneaks a look at Sonic, who's been strangely quiet. His son and Tails had spent some time together before crashing into Hawaii. Perhaps he has some idea about this different side of Tails. Sonic is finally starting to slow down on his food, which is good because Tom had started to worry about indigestion. He's glancing back and forth between Tails and Knuckles with an odd look on his face, like they are both part of an especially hard equation he can't wrap his head around. It does make sense in a way. This is Sonic's first experience with people his age who aren't humans. It's one thing to save the world with them, it's another thing entirely to suddenly have them in your home, which was, until a little while ago, a single-child household.
Miss Wachowski, you may please be excused.
Tails asks politely. Too politely it could be said. Tom feels a pang in his chest. No kid should be this polite all the time. They should be having fun, throwing food, and sneaking off without asking to watch or play video games. That's the kind of kid Tom had been, and it's the kind of kid Sonic is.
Of course. Tails, sweetie.
Maddie says.
Did you enjoy your dinner?
What dinner?
Tom thinks privately, kid has barely eaten anything.
It is very nice, thank you.
Tails says. He slips out his chair and with a little wave, vanishes somewhere into the house. Tom frowns over the lack of flying, which is something he's seen Tails do at every chance he gets. A silence falls over the table as everyone adjusts to the empty chair.
Is the fox all right?
Knuckles asks in his booming voice.
He seemed upset.
How observant of you.
Sonic drawls sarcastically.
Of course he was upset.
He cuts himself off abruptly.
He what, Sonic?
Maddie fixes her eyes on her son.
Nothing, forget I said anything.
Sonic says quickly.
It's so. Totally nothing. Yeah.
Sonic,
Tom says.
do you know what's upsetting Tails?
Maybe.
Sonic draws the word out, and then ducks under the table to sneak Ozzy a piece of raw carrot. It's clearly an avoidance tactic, and Tom thinks he's probably okay with it, since Sonic seems to be loyally trying to keep some sort of secret on Tails' behalf. He wants this sort of behavior for the boys, wants them to be close enough to be stubbornly and knowingly loyal. Maddie wants to know.
Is it something dangerous? It's not his ribs, is it?
None of the three boys had walked away from the fight with Robotnik unscathed, though Sonic had thankfully been able to heal most of his own wounds thanks to his time hyped up on Magic Gemstones. Knuckles had come out with some heavy bruising and broken fingers, plus a nasty cut that Maddie had almost missed seeing through all his red fur. Tails, meanwhile, had found himself the lucky winner of 3 broken ribs, courtesy of the doctor's missiles in Siberia. How he'd managed to take part in the final battle is something Tom still can't get his head around.
They're fine.
Sonic flaps a hand dismissively.
Totally not broken anymore. Didn't you see that when you gave him an X-ray last week?
Maddie nods reluctantly. Tom knows she's already grown to be fiercely protective of Tails, mostly because of how they'd first met him unconscious in a mound of snow with Sonic calling his name desperately. When your kid sounds so broken and torn up inside about someone, it doesn't take long for you to start feeling the same.
I will go talk to him,
Tom says.
and to make sure he's all right.
Maddie mouths thank you at him and then turns her attention to Knuckles, who appears to have crushed his fork with his strong grip and is now trying to straighten it back out. Sonic starts laughing and Knuckles raises his arm in what is surely going to be an attempt to beam Sonic between the eyes with said fork, but Tom ducks out before he can see if the Echidna gets away with it or not. Tails isn't in the lawn room or anywhere in the backyard, which probably means he's upstairs in the attic. It's still officially Sonic's room, which Tails and Knuckles' temporary residence until more suitable spaces can be arranged for them. It's also the first place any of the boys run to when something's upset them. Tom found Sonic there right after the battle, curled up on his bed with tears in his eyes as he fought to process everything that had just happened, and had been at his side in a flash. 2 days later, he watched sullenly from the door as Knuckles paced back and forth in front of the Cho's Emerald, shooting at glares like he couldn't make sense of it now that he finally had it. And now, Tom pokes his head into the room and spots Tails morosely fiddling with his tinny backpack. He seems to be trying to stuff all his possessions into it, something he can't do very well when the amount of things he owns has grown since being taken in by Tom and Maddie.
England.
Tom says as quietly as he can. Tails still jumps.
Mr. Wachowski, what are you doing here?
The kid trips over his letters.
Just checking on you.
Tom takes a careful step into the room.
You left in a rush.
Oh, I just wasn't very hungry. Not that I wasn't super grateful. Thank you so much for making it for me. I'm really, really sorry I couldn't eat it all.
Relax, kid. I'm not upset. Especially not with those two garbage disposals down there. They're never gonna have leftovers again.
Tom said. Tails laughs a bit at that, which Tom counts as a win.
You okay if I sit down?
He asks, gesturing to a stray chair that he's pretty sure Knuckles might have taken from someone's hard rubbish. Tails shrugs, and then nods. He watches Tom the whole time as he makes his way from the door to the seat. Tom hates that he knows this means Tails is probably afraid of him at the moment. He's trying to get a red on Tom.
Why are you packing your stuff up?
Tom asks once he's sat down. He's trying to keep his voice light and unaccusing, but Tails flinches anyway.
Well, I can't stay here forever.
He says eventually.
Sharing with Sonic starting to bug you. Don't worry, we're working on getting that extension up as soon as possible.
Tom says.
Then you and Knuckles can have your own rooms.
No need to make me a room.
Tails keeps his eyes down now as he tries to stick a gadget into his pack.
It'd just be a waste of space.
Tom takes a second to swash his immediate angry reaction down. Tails clearly isn't on the same page as everyone else in this family, but he's just a kid, 8 apparently, and more academically gifted than socially. There's no point going in guns blazing, because all it'll do is make him shut down further.
Would it be a waste of space?
He asks, as simply as one might ask for the time.
This is only temporary. You guys have been great and I really appreciate you letting me stay here, but I have to go eventually.
Tails says.
You're home.
Tom thinks fiercely, abruptly, suddenly.
But you are home, Tails.
Tom says fiercely, abruptly, suddenly.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say, Mr. Wachowski.
Tails says. He sounds embarrassed, like the idea of someone caring for him is a foreign concept. Tom gets that wrenching stab of anger in his chest. Who hurt this boy? This kid.
But I know it's a lot to ask to take in another kid, and it's not like I don't have anything to go back to like Sonic and Knuckles, so really it's not a problem.
Do you have parents?
Tom finds himself asking, because it's not like he wants to kidnap Tails. It's just maybe something he'll do if he finds out Tails' parents are the root of his anxieties. Tails looks at him with wide, terrified eyes.
Everyone has parents.
That's not what I asked.
That's exactly what you just asked.
Stupid smart kids. Tom rolls his eyes affectionately.
Are your parents still in the picture?
No?
Tails is young enough to be bad at lying and smart enough to know he shouldn't try.
I'm sorry.
Tom says, which he is of course, unless.
It's okay.
Tails perks up for some reason.
They're not dead, so you don't have to be sad about that. They just, well, I guess just one day they decided they didn't want to eat.
What the heck? Who just decides they don't want a kid? Especially a kid as young as Tails is?
You have to go to.
Tom tries to focus on what else Tails had said, rather than on the absolute fury he's feeling right now as he pictures what it must have been like for Tails growing up, knowing his own parents didn't want him. He's really doing his best here not to lose his temper and start shouting. The root of his anger isn't here. After all, it's somewhere in space, apparently living a normal existence and caring that it abandoned a child.
Oh,
You said it wasn't like you didn't have anything to go back to. It means you had somewhere to go, right?
right.
Tails nods.
The orphanage? I'll live there.
Tom immediately starts thinking about the adoption process for aliens. Really, he knows exactly what's going on here. Tails has grown up in less than stellar circumstances, and it's lead to an inferiority complex so huge that he doesn't think he deserves good things. He'd rather go back to a place he's clearly miserable and then stay and be an apparent burden in a home he loves. It's something Tom could just outright say, but he's trying to be delicate about this.
Do you like the orphanage?
He asks.
It's alright. It's pretty crowded and nobody really likes me, but it's on, you know.
Tails says, sounding uncomfortable.
Have you ever tried for adoption?
Tails shakes his head.
We can't, nobody would want he.
We want you in Maddie, Sonic, and Knuckles. We'll want you.
Tom thinks.
We do think we would want you.
Tom asks. Tails blinks up at him in obvious surprise. He seems to think whatever reason that apparently makes him so undesirable to people is a no-brainer, something Tom should know from simply looking at him.
You think because of your Tails, nobody wants you?
Do.
Tom can feel his heart all but breaking.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yes, there is.
Tails cries.
You can't say there isn't, 'cause there's foxes shouldn't have two tails. Not on my planet and not on Earth either. Not anywhere. It's just me, I'm afraid.
Tails.
Nobody wants a freak to stay around. I'm a novelty and then every often I get tested out.
Would notice that where you're packing.
It's too much all at once, and Tom can only focus on the immediate fear that Tails is leaving.
Yeah.
Is the answer he gets. Tails fights with the zip on his bag, apparently packed to his satisfaction. Tom catches a glimpse of a bit of fabric hanging out and recognizes it is a blanket Maddie bought the other day, soft and yellow and decorated with planes. He remembers the smile on her face as she picked it up and stroked its fluff, smiling too as he knew she was imagining she was holding.
But why?
His voice cracks.
Everybody tisses me out.
Tails says. His voice is cracking too, buckling under the threat of tears.
You'll do the same eventually. Everyone always does. Why can't it be on my terms for us?
This isn't one of those times.
How do you know that?
Because I'm your dad.
He and Tails stare each other down in an attic made of wood and toys and love. Everywhere around them are parts of Sonic's life, a life he lives as Tom's pride and joy. His son, it's a mess of a room, but still there is space for other people to carve out lives for themselves as well.
Wait, it's barely been a month. Why are you so sure?
Tails' eyes are filling with tears.
Tails.
Sonic scrambles through a mound of snow.
No.
It took the dead to be sure about Sonic.
Tom says.
Probably even less. What it's like with your kids, you just know.
Nobody wants me.
I want you maybe once you were not nobody's in Netherloop. Maybe people told you that in the past, but they're wrong. And to Tails is just something that makes you. Can be Tails without them, would you?
Tails giggles, a watery little thing that catches and becomes a sob. He's shaking, fingers gripped so tightly around the straps of his backpack that Tom worries he's hurting himself.
Come here.
He says, and holds his arms out.
I think someone's in need of a pat in the Hotchkiss family hug.
Unlike Sonic, who usually flings himself into Tom's arms at a back-breaking speed, that being if he's even in the mood for a hug, Tails approaches much slower, ears pressed back against his head like he thinks he's doing a bad thing even though Tom has literally asked for it. Tom meets him halfway, tugging Tails gently into his arms and holding him tight. He can feel the little trembles rippled through him as Tails gives in and starts crying.
This isn't real.
The kid sobs into him.
It really is.
Tom assures him.
Nobody wants me.
We want you.
You'll get tired of me.
We want.
I'm a freak.
You're not freak.
I'm not enough.
You're nothing more.
Tails is worry and fear and a lifetime of being told he's weird. And Tom is reassurance and love and lifetime of wanting to be a dad without even knowing it. They make a mismatched, muddled mess of tears, but that's all right. Tails can cry his troubles out here, and Tom will hold him and tell him it's going to be okay.
We want you, Tails. We do want you to be a part of this family. We want you to live here and have your own room and be brothers, Sonic and Knuckles, and be our kid.
He says it over and over again, but the words never lose their meaning. They are everything Tom can give to the scared little boy. He can only hope they help.
Hey, Mr. Wachowski.
Tails whispers to him eventually when his tears have all dried up. You?
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
It's about what you said before about a Wachowski family hug.
Yeah.
I actually already have a last name.
Is it the fox?
Tom asks dry, thinking of Knuckles the Echidna.
You're its Prower.
Isn't your first name actually Muzz?
Yeah.
Tom holds back a laugh. Is this kid's name seriously a pun? Furthermore, does he even know it's a pun? Being an alien from an alien planet that probably doesn't have miles and hours.
Can I tell you another secret?
Sure.
I don't like my last name.
Well, that's bad.
Tom's heart swells.
I guess we'll have to get you one.
I mean,
Tails hesitates again. Tom knows he's not going to be able to get rid of Tails' insecurities with just one hug, but it still makes him sad to hear how apprehensive Tails sounds.
if there's one offer.
Of course there is.
Tom says, in just 4 words, Miles Prower becomes Tails Wachowski. It's not Lego, because Tails is an alien fox without a birth certificate or a social security number. That doesn't matter though. Sonic is a Wachowski and he hasn't got any of those things either. Sometimes there are more important things than the law. After a while Tom realizes that Tails has fallen asleep cuddled up to him. They smooshed against his chest and chest rising and falling evenly. It's an uncomfortable position, sure, but Tom isn't about to move. He can't remember seeing Tails look this relaxed since first meeting him.
I've got you.
He whispers to the fox and swears he hears him start to purr. Eventually, this moment will break. Sonic and Knuckles will come up for bed and inevitably wake Tails up. Maddie will call for help with the dishes and Tom will oblige lovingly. He will let this boy go, just for a moment, just for now, when they need to be at different ends of the same home, under the same roof with the same last name marking them as a family. He will let Tails go and in the same breath, take him back, as easily as one blinks, or breathes, or smiles. Tom smiles easily, willingly and freely, because he has a home and he has a family and that's enough. In fact, it's more than enough. It might just be everything.